This John Lothian News video is sponsored by
Financial regulators began their overhaul a few years ago with several goals in mind, one of which was to make clearing and trading venues more open and transparent. But can cash securities and derivatives be shoehorned into the same set of rules? Andrew Simpson, head of post-trade services at Euronext, compares the regulatory objectives with the realities of the market.
We have right now a massive amount of regulatory change upon us, huge amounts of regulatory change that stem from the crisis of 2007 and 8. And out of that were probably two main areas. The first is a reduction in risk by central clearing of OTC derivative products and an increase in transparency. So what has played out is a drive towards central clearing, and at the same time we sit on the back of still the MiFID implementation of increased competition, and increased competition was driving interoperability. So we now have a situation where, as EMIR rolls out and starts to be implemented, interoperability has been limited, we hope, we think, down to cash products only, cash equities, and to a degree there are examples of cash fixed income interoperability. But will it be extended into other products such as OTC derivatives? Highly unlikely, we think. Highly unlikely at the moment, although we are waiting for ESMA and the European authorities to come back with a ruling on that. So when you look at interoperability, the question is, what benefits does it bring to the trading community? Absolutely, we have seen a reduction in the overall cost of trading, and some firms with big volumes are experiencing now almost sub-cent clearing. So the overall cost of trade has gone down. But what we've not seen is what many market commentators thought we would see, which is an increase in volume traded. Liquidity has been damaged an awful lot. It's gone down an awful lot for a number of years. We will probably never see the likes of the volume that we saw in 2008, 2007 and before, 2009. What we think potentially is happening is people are holding on to more capital because the capital requirements now coming out of EMIR and out of the FSB requirements to increase the central clearing requirements. So therefore what we're seeing is people putting capital aside to try and protect themselves from a margin perspective. Because access and interoperability are often spoken about in the same breath. They are two different areas in the texts, but they are often actually spoken about literally within the same breath. Why? Well, because you can't have interoperability without access, and access needs to be broken down into the access of a CCP into the trading venue and the access of a trading venue into CCPs. If you have a number of CCPs coming and requesting access to the trading venue, one has to be very careful that the member base of that CCP will deliver sufficient liquidity for the product being cleared on that venue. And if you're not careful, one has to be very, very cognizant of the fact that you might get a bifurcated market, you might get split clearing, where you've got certain products being cleared on one market and almost those same products actually being cleared on another market but with a different set of members. And that's a quite significant fear to the market. It would perhaps bring risks that are less than necessary for the market itself. What would happen as well is it would bring inefficiencies to the market. You are likely to get less netting opportunities, increased margin, should we say focused, and actually concentration within the open interest potentially on that product and within that CCP. You could effectively get to a situation where the CCP becomes almost too big to fail in that particular product and therefore has to be sustained, and it's a quite significant danger actually. So access has to be looked at extremely carefully. And likewise the other way around, a venue looking for access into a CCP, one has to be careful that is that venue bringing sufficient liquidity for the CCP in order for the CCP to actually turn a decent revenue and make money, but also make sure that it isn't bringing dangers because of perhaps a limited member base of the trading venue to the CCP. I wouldn't necessarily say that Europe would go down the same route as the US, where you have one large utility clearing house for cash equity products. And I think we've missed the opportunity to have that because it probably would have been driven by the regulators or by some central authority. We may end up with one or two clearing houses clearing all of the European market. One has to absolutely bear in mind that where we've got to with the low clearing fees, that the CCP also has to be able to make sure that its revenues are covering its costs. And therefore, perhaps one output we may see in the future, in the not too distant future, is clearing costs having to go up, because clearing houses need to be able to cover an awful lot of volume in order to make sure they're covering their costs.